Hello, everyone. My name is Andrii Shykhov. I'm working more than maybe 5 years with AWS. And today's topic of this presentation is about how we can manage AWS in AWS infrastructure and how we can manage it with GitOps solution and with CloudFormation. And here's a short description. First, we will talk about how we can create infrastructure via a simple CloudFormation stack with a specific feature from CloudFormation Git Sync. Second topic is about how we can create CloudFormation nested stack and how we can deploy it with CloudFormation CodePipeline pipeline, and in the end, how we can monitor all of this. Yes, how we can monitor in case of drifts, and here is solution how we can monitor it with AWS config rule. And what is GitOps? Mostly when we are talking about GitOps, what we are talking about. And here is interesting article, and this is like source for my solution, because we can have different strategies. We can have our code, our infrastructure code in different branches, but here is like idea to having it in different folders, like one folder per environment. And here is example from this article. For example, if we start with creation infrastructure, we prepare our code for first environment, in this case QA, we release it, and next, if everything is okay, we are making copy this code from one folder to other one, release it, and next, in the end, if everything is also okay with our second environment, release it to production. And what is Git Sync and how it works? Here is example from the AWS documentation where you can find more information about it. And this is like main idea how we can promote our changes. And because normally, like typically, how we work with CloudFormation, like first very popular solution, we can go to AWS console and next go to CloudFormation and next click, create stack. Or we can create it with AWS CLI command, create stack. Here is idea, but how we can manage our code. Like, okay, we created, but where it should be. Like normally it should be in our Git repository, and here is a solution for having, let's say, we are trying to create infrastructure for 3 environments. In this case, development, staging, and production, very common. And what we should have, like before creation our 3 stacks, 3 CloudFormation stacks, we should have AWS Code connection for connecting, let's say, AWS and our Git repository, whatever it's GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. In my example, it's GitLab. And for correct work of this code connection, we should have a YAML role with necessary policies. Also for promoting this infrastructure code by CloudFormation for creation these resources. For example, in my case, I'm using as example very simple code for creation S3 bucket and S3 bucket rule. And for it, we also need to have additional IAM role. Yes, and I named it as predefined configuration. Here is like example structure. First, we need to have this connection, IAM roles, and parameter. Parameter as example that for our CloudFormation stacks, when we create it, we can use like different sources. We can use these parameters from template, but also from parameter store. It's just for example. And so on. And here in the infrastructure, you see this structure with different folders for development environment, for production, and for staging. And in S3 bucket, YAML is our simple configuration for S3 buckets, which we need to create with every CloudFormation stack. Into deployment parameters, we need to define necessary template file paths. It's necessary for code connection to know where should be our template parameters, which we need to define, and tags, which we need additionally define here. Why we need these parameters here? Because as we are having an idea that in every environment, we have the same template for development, for production, and for staging. And here, difference only into these parameters. These parameters, we define the names of the resources, tags of the resources, these differences which we need to have between these resources. Okay. Here's example into CloudFormation configuration connection and SSM parameter, which we need to have. In this case, I use GitLab for connection. And here's example of the mentioned AM role for creation resources via CloudFormation. And here is example of AM role for connectivity between our Git repository and CloudFormation. In this case, CloudFormation should have necessary access for creation, for updating, for creation change sets, etc., all necessary updates what CloudFormation is doing. Here is a simple part of the mentioned template for S3 bucket creation. And here are resources, S3 bucket, and S3 bucket policy. This is just for example. You can have whatever what you are trying to create. Here is just example how we can specify for not hard coding values, just define these values by parameters into the config file. Yeah. And what can be the problem with this, let's say, solution? Problem, not problem. We should go to AWS console and here manually create a CloudFormation stack with Git Sync feature. It's not possible to do it with AWS CLI. Why? Because here is specified into this part of documentation that as source, we can use only S3 bucket. It's not possible to use local files from our Git repository. Here are simple steps for creation. We are choosing that we already have prepared our configuration, choosing option sync from Git. And here we should specify our stack name. And here we are choosing that we already have prepared this config file and files into our repository. And if it was like earlier connected, we choose linked repository. If not link it with GitLab, in my case, need to provide my name of the connection, which I created earlier, my repository, branch, and mention deployment file path from config file. and existing IAM role for connectivity between CloudFormation and Git repository. And next, we need to specify additional IAM role for CloudFormation for possibility to create necessary resources. Yes, because even here, like, this is optional, but we should provide necessary IAM role. Okay. In the end, if already all our configuration is okay, we create a CloudFormation stack, and into this section Git Sync about CloudFormation stack info, we can see all our configuration. If it's successfully connected, and into sync events, we can see what's going on, like step by step. And into this example, last one is succeeded. It means that all necessary resources were successfully provisioned. Okay, one of the section here is change set. Yeah, and here can be also the section how we can troubleshoot any issues with our CloudFormation stack in case we did some incorrect configuration. Yes, made Git push, it pushed to our repository, applied to our CloudFormation stack, and it failed. And here, for example, we can see in case of fail, in this case, not so clear information, but we can see that something is not okay. We should make some troubleshooting and find what is not okay. Because what also for change set, like if we have any issues, like we are trying to create already existed resource or something like not stupid thing, but from CloudFormation perspective, it's not okay. If we are doing it like directly created, okay, we will see more information. But when we are using Git Sync, this information is not so clear. Need to check it more. And here, as I mentioned, into changes set, also we can see what we change. In case here I just tried to change policy, like adding more permission. Yes, I added it, made push, and next see what I have into this change set, what was changed. Into JSON changes, you can clearly see what is the difference between current configuration and applied configuration. And some small advantages and disadvantages of these solutions. One of that we manage from our Git repository, like it can be a little bit easier. We can reuse our CloudFormation templates for different environments. Like it's more secure because we have only connectivity between our AWS and our repository, and it's secure connection, and it is not necessary any additional pipelines. But disadvantages, like it doesn't support nested stack because of, which I already mentioned, it should be into S3 bucket. You can find, for example, in my case, I used into GitLab repository, you can find into configuration webhook, and you can see this connectivity configuration to AWS. Yes, but you can't manage it. Like you can change configuration for triggering it onto some events, for example, only on merge events, not to everything, because by default it triggers on everything, on any even messages. But you can't use this webhook into, for example, GitLab CI/CD. Yes, And yeah, errors not clear, as I already mentioned. Okay, but what if we need to have nested stack instead of one single stack? Yes, what can be advantage of nested stack? Yes, what is nested stack in general, and how we can use it? Yes, because in this case, if we use Git Sync, yes, okay, we can have all of our configuration into one huge file and working with it. If we don't have so much, so many resources, it's not the problem. But if you need to have logically separated, better using nested stacks and operate with it. In this case, as source should be S3 bucket, and we need to have a little bit more redefined configuration for applying GitOps strategy to this case. Yeah, here, for example, we can use AWS CodePipeline pipeline. We use the same connection, our repository, our code deployment. One deployment is deploying our infrastructure, our code to CloudFormation, just deploy. And other deployment is also deploying our full repository into S3 bucket for having all of our configurations to this CloudFormation. And here, simple infrastructure, similarly into CodePipeline, I have predefined configuration for applying to all of it, like pipelines, like IAM roles, etc., etc. Into infrastructure, also the same 3 environment folders. In this case, I have root. Into root, defined through resources for creation S3 bucket and S3 bucket policy. And which resources I need to have? Code connection, already mentioned. IAM roles for accesses, S3 bucket with S3 bucket policy for storing our files for CloudFormation, and here as additional code build project in case we need to have, let's say, additional security for running linter for checking our templates. Into the mentioned pipeline, we have also stages source connectivity with our repository, safe and lint for linter, copy to S3 for deployment, and deploy to CloudFormation. Simple example of IAM role for connectivity to CloudFormation, for creation all necessary resources, in this case S3 bucket and only S3 bucket policy. And here is part of the pipeline configuration. First stage is source. In this case, I need to define my repository, branch name, need to define also provider. In this case, code start source connection, which is not so logical because it was renamed to old source connection, but it's correct name of the provider. Copy to S3, it's a category deploy. It's like deploying. We are trying to deploy our files to S3 bucket. And here is part for deploying our CloudFormation nested stacks. And in this case, action mode is create update. We can't define that what we need to do with this CloudFormation nested stacks. We can create or update when this pipeline running, or we can delete it if it's not necessary anymore. Yes, and parameter overrides in parameters for environment defined here because as we have our solution for having the same CloudFormation templates in every per every folder, per every environment. We are working only with parameters in this case, not making additional changes to our templates. Yes, here is example of the stack which we are trying to create two resources for bucket and for policy. And here are some parameters which are necessary. And here is an example of the pipeline. In this case, everything is good. And in case of any issues, errors, we can go to the action of this any stage, and we can have more logs, what's going on, what is not okay. In case of deployment, for example, here I was trying, for example, use into the template incorrect URL. Instead of providing here S3 bucket URL, I was trying just something like google.com. And here I see like clear error logs, what is not okay. Like earlier with Git Sync, it was not enough clear. Here is like more clear information. And yes, also advantages and disadvantages. We can use it for nested stacks. We can use it for different environments, like creation stacks for different environments per one pipeline. We can like more flexibly configure it, adding additional stages, like for example, code build for checking templates with linter. And disadvantages, like we have more configuration. We need to have more resources. In this case, additionally, S3 bucket. We should define our parameters into the resource values. If we doing it with CloudFormation or create this pipeline manually, we should remember about it or know where it is. And additional like feature, okay. We created our CloudFormation stacks, but what if somebody, in this case, go to S3 bucket and rename? Yes, and somebody changed this resource which was created by CloudFormation, and when I will try to apply my changes next time, I will have drift and I will have error in this case. And if we need to add like additional security, and we need to know when something happened with our infrastructure managed by CloudFormation, we need to have notification about it, and we can do it with AWS config rule, which like monitors changes into our CloudFormation. And in this case, if any changes was done, it's uncompliant. This CloudFormation stack is not compliant anymore. And we receive notification, in this case by email, that something is not okay with this stack. And here is some drift, please check or do something. Here is, yes, some IAM role for checking our CloudFormation stacks, and config rule. In this case, we are using CloudFormation stack drift detection check rule from AWS, which is doing this check of our CloudFormation stacks. And next, we have also remediation configuration in case what we should do if it happens. Yes, and here in this remediation configuration, we can define only as target type SSM document. And what we will do next depends on this systems manager automation runbook document. In this case, very simple publish SNS notification document is in use. And here is configuration, what we are sending by email, the drift detected for some stack and stack name. Okay. Yeah, simple advantages of this solution is that we use like minimum resources, minimum services for creation, something like that, and we are able to have notification in case something changed, but from other side, it's not running immediately because config rule running time by time, and it is not real time. And here is also have some limitation of how long our message which we are trying to send can be. Simple cost estimation of all of these solutions. First one, no cost. Second one, we are paying only for pipeline and for S3 bucket. Third one, for monitoring, we are paying for config rule and for SNS topic and for systems manager automation runbook running. It's also not so huge cost. Okay, it's mostly for all from my side. Any questions from your side, or can I ask you, are you using something like that, like Git Sync or creation of stacks with pipeline? Will you use it after my presentation?
So I was wondering, you show that you are using a cloud. So
yep.
Runam are you using? And if you need Runam for that, that's the first question. The second one is, what is the Git branching strategy in that case? So I saw that you put all your stages in the one account.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any separation between stages in this possible solution?
Mm-hmm. For first question about runners, in this solution for nested stack, I'm using only AWS pipeline. I'm not using GitLab runners for it. And okay, about second question.
So maybe I will clarify.
Yep.
You have a team of developers.
Yep.
So we are producing feature branches where
yes.
That for production. So I was wondering if you created those functionalities, how you can create I don't know, some custom stacks for each developer to test the solution. Instead of development environment.
Yes. From my perspective, this is a good question, and it depends on your like strategy, how you manage it. Here's like example using just one branch, and into this branch, let's say main, And from this main, we are deploying all of this configuration. We expect that previously we tested it. Like this solution is not just for tests, for playing around, just for applying, like let's say onto production, but different environments. Yes, in this case, like staging, dev, production. Yes, I think it's also be possible having different branches, like dev for development, for testing, something what we need to apply later. I don't know which solution can be best for which case, yes, because also with GitOps is strategy having it in different branches. And for example, now into my current work, we are using like one repo and different branches for different customers. We just decided to have something like that. Yeah. I don't know if I answered. And I just tried to use this solution from this guy from the post at the beginning. And I have found that it's an interesting solution and can be useful for these cases, exactly for these simple, very simple stacks. And if you need to create like big infrastructure with very complicated stacks and with different, let's say, amount of resources, for example, for dev, you need to create 1 EC2, for staging 3 EC2s, for production 10. And yeah, in this case, this solution will not be good.
Sure. Yeah. So as I said, it's probably for very simple stacks.
Yes.
One more question. You mentioned that it's hard to pass the files to the S3 packets, I understood. So if you have the serverless application, when for instance you are building a Lambda function or something with the code, and you need for instance, a Lambda layer for that function, how you can sync that stuff with the information.
Yes, I had experience with something like that, and also during the process of creation of Lambda function, and into Lambda layer, also specify this path, as I remember URL, into your S3 bucket. And for example, how we have for some Lambdas, also code for Lambda function. And for example, sometimes, yes, it's logically that we change code of the Lambda. Yes, it's into zip files and it like into different directories. It's one directory for just resources, other directory just for code. And other one can be for layers, yes, because we need to have something like additional package, which is not by default exist here into this runtime.
Okay, so the build process for the layer itself is done by, in your case, CodePipeline.
Yes. Like I'm copying full repository and I expect it is into this repository somewhere.
So about this AWS config and detection risk, what is the, I don't know, we can schedule these checks and what is the time frame there? And additional question, what else besides notification you can put in the policy? For example, you can revert changes by this config or only notify, I don't know, administrator and he will came in and revert the changes.
Yes, about scalability, into the config rule, you can configure how often it checks. I don't exactly remember what is the minimum time, every minute or every some seconds. It can be very often check it. About scalability of this solution, and I had something like like, additional to this solution, like checking it, like, okay, we have notifications, just detect it, notify it, and okay, what if we are working on the client infrastructure, and client needs to know who did these changes and how, like from AWS CLI, from console, from where, or who did it, some user or somewhere. And in this case, we can add additional configuration as flow trail to sending all of these logs, what's going on with our CloudFormations to S3 bucket. And next, based on these logs, we assign a table running queries, like find necessary logs, necessary information with keywords, and next create document, and for example, sending this document to client, like directly with all necessary information. Because we expect we have notifications that something was changed, and we expect that it was happened, for example, during last hour. And we are looking into all of these logs for last hour, finding necessary information, and making document and sending to client, for example. It can be a solution, as additional solution, what we can obtain of it.
Okay, one additional question about this Git Sync. You show us this simple infrastructure with the folders for each environment. What in case when I want to deploy, for example, production infrastructure into different AWS account and the rest on separate AWS account? You show us that there is some credential YAML. Can you separate this on this level, or you set up, I don't know, the new file structure?
In this example, I used like 3 different CloudFormation stacks created manually, like first stack, next second one, next third one. And here only like differences into, like at the beginning it was like structure of my directory, and here into, for example, development, this configuration file and template file, and next. And just when I was going through the process of creation, it like it was example for development environment, and next the same for staging, and next the same for production. Click. Yes.